Okay, good morning. It is February 8th, 2023, 9:20 in the morning. Sorry, we're starting late. There's a little confusion. New semester, back and forth. I went downstairs initially and then was yeeted, is that the word? Up here. So I want to start a series. This is going to be not a one-off, but it's actually, I'm going to introduce the topic today. It's possible that I've mentioned it in the past. It's even possible that I did a class. I had the last recording that I have of this class was last school year. It's like at the end of the summer. So some of you may have seen it, which is fine because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make like at least a 3-part series on it, maybe more, because I want to get much more in depth on the topic today. Shilas? You guys are writing Shilas on napkins? I hope this is not offensive to anyone. Okay. I just saw one available. All right. Wait, am I recording? Yes, I am. Okay. So, how are the mitzvos divided? Okay, so one way of looking at them is you have positive... Okay, so we're going to... You have positive mitzvos, and you have negative mitzvos. What does that mean? Positive ases, things that you should do. Negative mitzvos, things that you are forbidden to do. Good. Have you ever heard of any other way of dividing the mitzvos?
Yes. Bein adam lachavero and bein adam lama.
Good.
Or
mitzvos,
positive and negative.
That's one of the ways.
Positive and not positive.
Positive and not positive? Are you saying that because you're trying to stay with positive language?
No, I don't remember how you explained it.
Oh, I mean, they're called ases, do's, and los ta'ases, do not do's.
Right.
Right, so the positive and negative.
Okay.
Another way of dividing the mitzvahs is the mitzvahs between us and other human beings, bless you, and the mitzvahs between us and Hashem. Good. Some people even add a third one, mitzvahs between us and ourselves. But that one is like a kind of a more modern invention. It's not like in the literature until more recently. Which is cool because it's psychology, right? You're getting into... I was reading the introduction of the Rambam's commentary on the Mishnah, and he talks about diseases of the nefesh. And as I'm learning with my chabrusa, and I'm reading what the Rambam... This is almost 1,000 years ago. And the Rambam is writing of diseases of the nefesh. I'm like, this is like right out of a psychology textbook. It was incredible to read stuff written 1,000 years ago that was clearly talking about what is discussed today in modern psychology, but by a rabbi 1,000 years ago. It's really cool. Yeah, question?
What's an example of mitzvah bein adam lama?
Taking care of your health, right? Shmor nafshei seichem, guard your nefesh. According to some rabbis, means make sure that you're taking care of your health, physical, mental, etc. I saw another one, Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, I heard him say, I was surprised when I heard it, that Lashon Hara primarily is a mitzvah between you and yourself. Even though it's talking about other people, the core idea is that Lashon Hara it's beneath you. It's gross. To talk about people is so lowly and nasty, it makes you less of a person. So it's really about between you and yourself. That's the way I heard him explain it. Okay? So that's an example. Alright. Any other ways to divide the mitzvahs? We have 2 so far. Do and don't do, and between, like who's in between? Good. Any other ways to divide the mitzvahs? Well, that's just a subdivision, yeah. Right? Not a surprise that Loisa says Shazmar Grama was said by a woman, right? Probably half the men would like not even know what that is. You know? Those are things I don't have to do. Right? Good. Anything else? Sometimes people say like mishpatim and mitzvos versus chukim. Mitzvahs that are easily understood by the intellect, and those that are difficult or impossible to understand to intellect. Good. That's a way that many rabbis explain it. I just want you to know, one of the greatest rabbis of the modern age, I mean modern meaning like 150 years ago, but for Jews that's modern, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch does not talk about it that way. He doesn't think chukim mean that at all. If you look at his book Choreb, which is a masterpiece of explaining the mitzvahs and their categories, etc., that's not his understanding. I know that's the most normal understanding, but there's more than one way to look at chukim. Just so you're aware that it's like, if there's nothing else I taught you, is that there's more out there that Judaism says than what you've been heard up until now. It's really a lot of stuff out there. It's really cool. Okay, good. What else? Anything else?
Like mitzvahs that don't apply now, like Rabbanos and like.
The Chafetz Chaim does that because he writes a sefer that it's basically all the mitzvahs that are relevant to us today on a day-to-day basis. So that's good. That's very good. Have we met?
No.
Hi. Hi, I'm David. What's your name?
Ayala.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Welcome. Okay. I was like, I don't know you. Okay. Good. So I'm going to share with you another one. Now, before I get into the one that I want to share with you, why do we divide the mitzvahs at all?
Because it what makes it complicated.
Quite the opposite. The reason why we divide the the door's closed. So loud, I thought it was open. The reason why we divide the mitzvahs is to make it more simple and understandable. Right? Because if you look at all of the things that we're required to do and all the things that we're forbidden to do, just to use one example, there's like thousands, if not millions of mitzvahs, if you look at all the details. But the rabbis in the Talmud say that there are taryag mitzvahs, right? 613 mitzvahs. Where do they get that number from? It doesn't say it in Chumash, right? There's nowhere in Chumash it says there are 613 mitzvahs. And there's even a few machlokesim on what the 613 are, although there's like 99% overlap. But there's a couple of mitzvahs that the Rambam says is part of the taryag, and the Ramban says is not. And Ibn Ezra has a different opinion on a couple. Which, by the way, they all agree that these are all mitzvahs. No one argues whether or not. I'll give you my favorite example. To believe in Hashem, is that a mitzvah? Not according to everyone. But according to some rabbis, that's just obvious. How can you even begin talking about mitzvahs if you don't believe in the one who gave us the mitzvahs? Right? So some count it, but everyone agrees it's a mitzvah. Just not everyone agrees, is it one of the 613? How do you count the 613? But fine, right? So we can organize them. When I was in yeshiva, we even had a thing where we went according to the Rambam. The Rambam divides them, and we even had a project to memorize all 613 mitzvahs according to the Rambam. Why? Because it's like having a filing cabinet in your brain. Anytime you learn something in Judaism, you can immediately go, this is under the folder of this mitzvah. This is under the folder of that mitzvah. So it helps you to organize in your mind all of Judaism, which is really useful and cool. There was even one family I knew that every Shabbos they would sing all 613 mitzvahs, about 1/3 by each Seudah. And like they would go through in order, 1 to 200, whatever, Friday night, whatever. And they got so good at it that it only took a few minutes by each meal. And like all the kids were singing. It's actually really cool. I don't think I'll ever do it, but it's a pretty cool idea. Okay, so good. So I want to give you another way of dividing the mitzvahs, which I find personally to be the most useful. Right? Which is.
That doesn't work.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Should I get one that does work?
If it doesn't take you more than like 20 seconds, if you don't get it that fast, just come right back. If you take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, do you know if there's a copy of the Mishnah Berurah in here?
It might just be behind that.
I'm not going to search very hard, but if I quickly see it, there's a Tanya. I know, okay, got some Chabadniki right here. Oh, my favorite book. You guys know this book? It's the Topa. It's in Russian, yeah. The letter P in Russian is actually R. You know, have you ever seen, like in the Soviet Union, it was like CCCP? Have you ever seen any of those like news rolls? In actuality, in Russian, it's SSSR. Talmud. Nope. I'm only looking because she hasn't even back yet. I'm not going to look much more than that. Yeah. Chumash. Okay. Man, Jews have a lot of books. Gosh. It's actually funny. It was the first thing I ever noticed walking when I was just beginning to get involved in Judaism and come into a frum family's home, and I just remember walking in and going, there are a lot of books in here. Is it? Okay. Is it still going? Okay, I think it's back. Okay, very good.
Is it actually recording?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay,
it's recording. Thank you for asking. I'm going to set it on airplane mode so that nobody dares to bother me while I'm teaching. Okay. All right. Okay, good. So the way I want to divide it, and you may have heard of this before, right, is in the Mishnah Berurah. if you take a look, literally first page of Mishnah Berurah, and you look down the bottom left in one of the different, because Mishnah Berurah is actually multiple commentaries. What's called Mishnah Berurah is actually one of like several that he wrote that are all on the same page. So if you look down on the bottom left, on one of the commentaries, forgive me, I forget, it's not the Mishnah Berurah, it's one of his other commentaries that he writes down there, and it starts, you guys know what's the first line of Shulchan Aruch, right? Right, exactly right. That's in the first line. Exactly right. It says that everybody should get up in the morning, as kenamer, get up bold like a lion, light like an eagle to do the will of God. And right there it says, and you should know, what does it say? David Melech says in Tehillim, Shivisi Hashem lenegli tamid. I place Hashem before me at all times. Great, it's amazing. Baruch Hashem, good for you. Right? So the Mishnah Berurah comments on that. He says, how do you actually put Hashem before you at all times? You could argue that this is all of Judaism. All of Judaism is having a relationship with Hashem, right? And since Hashem is always there, that means I'm constantly trying to have a relationship with Him. So Shivisi Hashem l'regli tamid, I place Hashem before me at all times, is one of the most important, concepts we can have. So the Mishnah Berurah immediately tries to explain it, and he explains it, right? So let's put it up here, right? Baruch Hashem, it works, right? Shivisi Hashem l'regli tamid.
Why is it 2,000, 4,000,
I'm not paying attention. I don't mean to you, I'm sorry, that sounded rude. I meant to what's up here. Shivisi Hashem l'regli tamid, I have placed Hashem before me at all times. Right? So the Mishnah Berurah quotes the Chinuch. If you guys know the Sefer HaChinuch, one of the most famous books on explaining the mitzvahs. And the Sefer HaChinuch explains the idea of what's called, right, 6 constant mitzvahs, right? Or in Hebrew, right, Sheish mitzvahs tmidi, or tmidiot.
I thought you were going to say the 6 constant annoyances.
Annoyances? I only have 5 kids. So, but only 4 are annoying, Talalea. You're not annoying at all. I love you so much. Okay, so I play the Sheish Mitzvahs Tamidi. So the Mishnah Berurah is connecting, because the Sefer HaChinuch explains the concept of there are 6 of the 613 mitzvahs are constant. They're Tmidi. We're going to explain what that means today. And then we're going to go, the series will be going into each of the 6 mitzvahs in a lot of depth. So you'll notice I place Hashem before me always. There are 6 mitzvahs that are always. The Mishnah Berurah is connecting the Chinuch's idea of the 6 constant mitzvahs to the Tehillim, which says I place Hashem before me at all times. And so the 6 constant mitzvahs can be understood as the 6 mitzvahs whose job is to place Hashem before me at all times. Right? So there are 613 mitzvahs altogether. If you're using this paradigm, this framework, you can say that there are 607 mitzvahs that are the tools, vehicles, and ways to get to it. They're the means, they're the car, they're the journey. But there are 6 that are the goal. This is what you're trying to get to. By fulfilling these 6 mitzvahs, you are placing Hashem before you at all times. You are fulfilling the purpose of existence of having a loving, deep relationship with the Creator, which, as you know, if you've been with me before, we've said many times is what Judaism says the purpose of life is. I ask in a class, what's our purpose? If you're a group of people who grew up Jewish, what do most of them say? To serve Hashem. I say, great. Why? Because he's hungry? You're going to make him a sandwich? You're going to make his bath? Massage his feet? Right? What does Hashem need? What are you going to do for him? What does David HaMelech say in Tehillim? Hashem, whatever I give you is already yours. Right? And what does Hashem say in one of the Nevi'im? I think Malachi. Hashem says to the Jewish people through the Navi, He says, if I'm hungry, you're not going to feed me. Right? There's nothing you can do for Hashem, because He's infinite, we're finite. So we were created by Him so that He can give to us with love a relationship with Him. Great. That's multiple classes, right? We just shoved them together in 60 seconds, right? And this is the actual mitzvah manifestation of that idea. Okay, so how do we work on developing this close, loving relationship with Hashem? Practically, down to earth. Tell me the halacha, right? That's what we want to know, because Judaism is about not only ideas, but also action, and you can discuss, it's a whole discussion, which is more important, but for now, let's say they're both super important. These are the mitzvahs that do that. Okay? Good. So, first question we have to ask. So, well, let me throw it out to you. Do you have any questions so far? Anything jump to your mind as a question?
Frog. You said jump.
You gotta work on that impulse control. Yeah? Any questions so far? No? Okay. Yeah.
You have a question. You have to ask it to us.
What was the separation?
What do you mean?
These constant mitzvos and
It's the 6 mitzvahs. This is kind of the goal of all of life and Torah and Judaism because it's relationship with Hashem. And the other 6, 7 are helping you to get there. It's like means and goals, ways and ends.
I'm confused. In the beginning, we started with different ways of separating.
Right. So this is my favorite way of separating the 613 mitzvahs into 6 that are the points of it all, and the other 607 are to help you get there. Yes.
I feel like we've learned before, like what the 6 constant mitzvahs are.
Right.
But like, how is it realistic to say that you're always doing that?
Good. How can a mitzvah even be constant? And I can ask the opposite and also, but still useful question. Aren't all mitzvahs constant? Like they're kind of both questions at the same time, even though they sound like they're opposites.
Well, no, I'm saying like I can't always give tzedakah, but like if I'm sitting.
But don't you always have the mitzvah to give tzedakah?
No, but I'm saying like if you're always completing those mitzvahs, then
right.
Technically, like how if I'm sitting here and listening to this, I'm not thinking in my head, oh, I believe in Hashem every second.
Good. But so that's a great question. We'll answer that. And I have an additional, like I said, it's kind of.
Question, I'll answer that.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me finish this, and then I'll come to yours. But are there more than 6 mitzvahs? Let's say not all 613, because you've got a very good question. But aren't there more than 6 that are constant? Let me give you an example, and then I'll tell you your question. Don't murder. Isn't that a constant mitzvah? Like, is there any time you're like, I'm putter from this right now, right? Well, okay, self-defense. Aside from that, because if it's self-defense, it's not murder, right? Like, murder is an unjustifiable homicide, right? Is there ever a time that you're allowed to do unjustifiable homicide? Right? So let me answer both of these questions, and then I want to... Actually, let me hear your add-on first.
So, a woman was saying how you have to know what other mitzvahs, what mitzvahs are constant. But if you don't know, how can you follow all the mitzvahs if you don't know what most of them are? Okay,
well... That's true, and that's why, like I said in yeshiva, we try to know what they all were, right? That's part of educating yourself in Judaism.
613 and not all of them are defiable.
I hear. I do find it amusing, in a very dark humor kind of way, that we as Jews were like, the Torah and the prophets and the mitzvos. And if you ask 99%, all right, let me be more fair, 95% of Orthodox Jews who went to yeshiva their whole life, what are the 613 mitzvahs, and when's the last time you learned, Yeshayahu, right? And they're going to be like, especially guys, never, because they just learn Gemara all day. Oh, maybe you're a girl and you go to Michlala or something, and you're learning Navi all day, maybe, right? But for the most part, we don't learn these things. Isn't that weird? It's whatever. My own kind of it's so funny. Hashem has a sense of humor. Okay, so let's go back to your to your and my question together. So first of all, let me answer mine first, then I'll answer yours because yours is a better question. It'll take a minute longer to answer. When do you fulfill the mitzvah of not murdering? Are you fulfilling it right now? Yeah.
No, when you have
I hope not.
When you have a challenge.
Good, right. When I'm driving and somebody cuts me off in traffic and I'm just I'm gonna kill that guy, and I'm like, but no, Hashem said no, right? By the way,
that's when you get the mitzvah.
That's when you get the mitzvah.
I constantly have
right, but let's be real. Despite, I mean, maybe you do have some serious anger issues. I don't know you that well, but she's smiling on the outside and the inside. She's like, I'm going to murder him. Right, but really, realistically speaking, I think, oh wow, oh my gosh, is that the first time all year I got a snort out of someone? That's awesome. That's like a level. Okay, it happens to me sometimes too. Don't feel bad. How often I think most of us are generally good people that don't actually want to murder anyone, right? I'm going to use myself as an example. I don't want to talk about you, all right? But using myself as an example, right? How many times in my life, I'm 45 years old, I'm turning 46 in September. How many times? I was like, you're also turning 46? Okay. She looks young, God. Okay. September 14th on the secular calendar, base Tishrei. I'm a New Year's baby. Okay, so how many times in my life? Okay, let me focus. How many times in my life have I actually fulfilled the mitzvah of stopping myself from murdering a human being? I don't think even one time. There was one time that I really wanted to beat someone up really badly. Once. Because the guy threatened me and threatened my family. And I was like, and I stopped myself. Right? Because number one, it was Shabbos. And number two, it was a Jew. So I'm like, like, I really stopped myself. No, don't do it. But it was like, but did I want to kill him? Was I willing to end his existence?
Absolutely.
No. I don't think so. No. I think I can be pretty confident and say that wasn't something that I was tempted to do. Like, I'll leave him in a, bloody broken mess on the floor. Sure. But like that he's not getting up. No, it wasn't that bad. So probably most of us, especially Jews, we're not generally violent people, right? We do white collar crime, right? We generally are not that kind of people. We don't have that kind of psychopathy very much in our makeup. We don't really fulfill that mitzvah that often, right? So it's not a constant mitzvah. So what makes a mitzvah constant, right? So now we're coming back to your question. So now we answered mine. Now we answer yours. So how do you understand? So I have two ways that I learned that we can look at mitzvahs as being constant. One of them is it's constantly available, right? It's not that you're actually fulfilling it constantly, but it's always there and ready to be done. So at any moment, you could stop and say, I love Hashem. Hashem is here with me. I'm going to, right? So that's one answer. It's not that you're constantly doing it, but it's always there. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. I actually remember very early on in my Jewish career, I wound up getting food poisoning. And it was like one of those, it was really rough. Like I just remember being, throwing up into the toilet, and it was terrible. It was in pain. It was agony. And in that moment, I was talking to Hashem. I was crying out, Hashem, please help me. It's like I was working on my relationship with God with my head over a toilet. Like there's no moments that it's not an opportunity to work on your relationship with God. So that's one answer of what makes the mitzvah constant. But there's another answer, which I really like as well. So let's actually write that down. So what makes a mitzvah constant? One answer is constantly available. The second answer is let me finish this water for a second so I can illustrate a point. That was really good. Oh, what the heck? Why did that happen? Why? Why'd that? I just wanted to... No, what? Why? Why would nobody ever do that? What am I aware of?
Gravity.
Am I aware of gravity? Yeah. Good morning. I am constantly aware of gravity. I don't have to think about it. There is no moment where I have to go, should I? Nah. Like, I don't have to. It's so ingrained in me that there's something called gravity that everything I do, and also everything I say, because I'll never say anything that's against gravity, and everything I think is just constantly affected and effected. Do you guys know the difference between affect and effect? For those who don't know, right? You have two words. You have affect and effect. Affect means influence, and effect means actually like change or cause, right? Right. So the fact that I know that there is gravity, I am constantly affected by that idea. It never leaves me. I never forget about it. I never do anything, think anything, or say anything that is not within the world that there's gravity. Does that make sense to everyone? So one way of looking at the 6 constant mitzvahs is it's like gravity. If everything that you say, if you've ingrained into you, right, Hashem exists, right? Because that's the first of the 6 constant mitzvahs. I'll write them down in a second what the 6 are, right? Emunah and Yediyah of Hashem's existence. If it's become so ingrained in you that Hashem exists, that everything you do, everything you think, and everything that you say is influenced by that knowledge, then you're fulfilling that as a constant mitzvah. It's now become constant in your life. Okay? I'll give you a practical example. I'm not going to pretend that this happens 100% of the time, because I'm not pretending like I'm a perfect husband or anything, but there are many times that my wife's existence as my wife in my life will affect something that she's not around. Right? She's not there, but I'll think something, I'll say something, or I'll do something because she's in my life. It's something that is in me. It's something that's part of me. I've ingrained it in me. Right? An example might be, right, something simple like, so my daughter stayed home yesterday because she had a doctor's appointment, and we had some leftover French toast from Shabbos. Right? And I remember my wife saying the other day, like, oh, it's going to go to waste. I hate throwing out food. And my daughter gets up and I'm like, hey, want some breakfast? She's like, yeah, let's eat the French toast. Right? Now, why did I pick to eat the French toast? Because I was thinking of something that would make my wife happy. To get rid of food so it wouldn't go to waste. Happened to be delicious also. I'm not going to, force down bad food. Right? But it was delicious. So we sat down, my daughter and I had a yummy French toast breakfast together. But my thinking, my process in my brain was, here's something that would make my wife happy. She didn't ask me for it. It wasn't something, oh, would you mind please having this for breakfast? Right? So it's an example of a constant of relationship. Okay? Good. You're all with me? Everyone on board? Amazing. So let's actually write the 6 constant mitzvahs out. Mitzvah number 1 is Yedias/Emunas Hashem. To know / believe in God. And I put it specifically as both knowledge and emunah, because we'll have to discuss it in depth. What's the difference? Why do you need both? How do I know we need both? The Rambam says it, the Ramchal says it. It's well established that these are both aspects of it. Mitzvah number 2, right, is no other gods with a small g. You write with a small g, that means it's not talking about God himself. You don't have to do that whole dash thing, right? It's like selling Elohim Acherim, other gods. You can say it with a hey. But if you're saying Elohim, Hashem himself, then you have to say a kuf because you're doing it with respect. Okay? Mitzvah number 3 is Yichud Hashem. Hashem is one. Good. Mitzvah number...
Yichud means that you can't be in the same room as...
Right, because you're not allowed to be one with, alone with, right? But the word yichud means to become one, but in the context of halachas of men and women, you're not allowed to be alone with a member of the opposite sex that some you are, many you're not, right? You're allowed to be alone with your dad, but you're not allowed to be alone with a cousin. Why? Because a cousin you could marry, so you're not allowed to be alone, for example. Not that anybody does, and I'm not suggesting you should, right? But if you're Bukhari, you have a lot of options at least.
Not my insurance policy.
What? Do Bukharis have a lot of cousins?
I'm Bukhari.
I noticed by your reaction. Do Bukharis have a lot of cousins?
You have a lot of cousins?
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I said that was wrong. Okay, moving on. number 4. I wasn't saying that they should marry their cousins. I didn't say they were from Alabama. I'm just saying that anyone from Alabama? Like how many? It's not a complete day if I haven't insulted anyone. All right. Mitzvah number 4 is Ahavas Hashem, love of God. Mitzvah number 5 is Yiras Hashem. For lack of a deeper translation for now, fear of God. And mitzvah number 6 is Lo Sasu. Right? I'm just not going to write the whole thing out. We say it in Shema. By the way, we say all 6 in Shema. Right? Just so you know. That's not an accident. What is lo sasuru? Lo sasuru achreinechem echad asher atem zonim achareihem. Don't go after your heart and eyes. That will distract you. That I think the way they usually translate it is by which you stray. What does that mean? It means something that takes you away from the path you should be going. Don't go after those things that will take you off the proper path. So these, according to the Sefer Chinuch, these are the 6 constant mitzvahs. According to the Mishnah Berurah, these are what Shivi Seshel Negdi Tamid means. So according to my understanding, based on primarily Ramchal, Rambam, and Vilna Gaon, and Balatanya, all of those, you put all the sources together, as far as I can understand and what I was taught in yeshiva, that this is the point of all of Judaism. This is what we're trying to do. Every time you do a mitzvah, you keep Shabbos, you eat kosher, you get married, Taras Mishpacha, Shomer Negiah, right? Yichud, every mitzvah, everything that we do is we're trying constantly to have a deep, loving, complete relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's what we were created for. Practically speaking, these 6 mitzvahs are one of the ways we can look at how we can do that. And it's my favorite. One of the questions that people sometimes ask, and then I'll open up to questions for you guys, right? One of the questions that people sometimes ask in any relationship, whether it's husband and wife, parent and child, friend, or with Hashem, is, I'm not sure how the relationship is doing. How are we doing? I don't really know. I don't know where are we holding. Well, that's a yeshiva expression, right? Right? Where? You know, girls got out on a date a couple of times with a guy, and what was everyone asking? So where are we holding? Have you ever heard that question? Right? Like where is this going? What's the relationship? What do you need? Like, okay, in terms of dating, it's either cut it off, it's done, or take it to the next level. But you can't stay in the same place forever. That's the general way people talk about it. But so how do you know what your relationship is like with Hashem? You ever wonder? How close am I to Hashem right now? Where am I? And you could say it as, how well am I fulfilling my purpose of existence, you know? At least generally, because we're all created with the same purpose. You and I were all created to come close to Hashem. Now you have a specific way of doing it that I don't. That's not this. This is not specific. This is general. You want to talk about how you do it in your life versus I do it in my life? That's not this series of classes. But this we have in common. I've given you the analogy of the Russian dolls? Well, babushki is usually the thing that the old ladies wear in their heads, right? No, but the Russian dolls, they're called matryoshka dolls. Matryoshka dolls, they're these, like a doll, and you open it, and there's like a smaller doll inside, right? Yeah, they're really cute. And they all have their little babushkas with the red cheeks, yeah. So I use the analogy that our purpose in life is like a matryoshka doll. It's like a Russian doll. Your general purpose in life, we all share. But then you open it up, and there's like your Jewish purpose in life. And then you open that up, and inside is your specific purpose in life. That's the analogy that I like to use. So whatever your specific purpose in life, it has to fit into your Jewish purpose. It has to fit in. It can't be outside the box. So it literally has to be, or outside the doll. And then your Jewish purpose, of course, has to fit into your human purpose. They all have to fit together. So this is either the big doll or the middle doll, depending on which rabbi you're talking to. I like to look at this as the big doll. I think we're all created for this. So how am I doing? Hashem, what's our relationship like? Well, that's a scary question. Sometimes we don't want to know. Same thing with marriages. People can be married for years and years and years and never actually sit back and ask the question, like, how are we doing? You need to do that once in a while. But sometimes the answer is not so good.
But he won't answer us.
He doesn't have to answer us. He gave us the tools to know the answer. These are the third way of looking at the 6 constant mitzvahs, besides they're constantly available, and it's like an affective thing in your life. The third way, the final thing is it's a relationship barometer. Barometer, right? That's how you spell barometer? What's a barometer? Barometer is just the name of a tool that measures the air pressure. But we use it as a general thing, as a tool to measure anything. It's my relationship barometer. How well is my relationship with Hashem going? It's not that hard to know. Well, how much do I really believe in Hashem's existence? How much do I make sure that there are no other gods in my life? How much do I work on... We're going to go through them all. This is what we're doing. I don't know how many classes it will take. Obviously, no more than 6, unless one of them literally takes more than one class. I don't think that it will. But I think I'd like to shoot for 4, because some of them come in pairs. Like love and fear of Hashem kind of come as a pair. As the Sefer Hatanya of the Lubavitcher says, that love and fear of Hashem are like the 2 wings that every mitzvah flies up to Shemayim on. You can't fly without 2 wings. So they go together.
It's way nicer than 2 sides of the same coin.
I don't think that they're 2 sides of the same coin. I think that, although I can see why people would say that, but I like, wings is nicer, right? It's nice. I like wings. Okay. We're set up. Questions? We still have 5 minutes. So now is your opportunity. I'm going to stop the recording.